Hi guys, Hooving Central here, and welcome back to another video. And today we're going to be looking at something slightly different. Rather than a ranking video or a review, we're going to be looking at something that happened within the Jon Pertwee era of Doctor Who, and something that I kind of think is the one big downfall of the Jon Pertwee era, and it's going to be the thing that I've named the Master Fatigue. Now, so if you don't know, during season 8 of which is Jon Pertwee's second season, the Master appears for the first time in Terror of the Autons, and then he then just appears in every episode from season 8. Now, I'm sure at the time that every week you saw the Master, it wasn't as bad, possibly. It might have been, yeah. But when you're watching, if you're doing a binge of the Jon Pertwee era, and you watch season 8, season 9, season 10, season 11, season 7 as well, sorry, but he's not in it, so that's why, and he's not really in season 11, but anyway, if you watch season 8 and season 9 especially, back to back, you do start to get what is the Master Fatigue, where, or I at least got it, and I'm sure a lot of people will have it, where it's just, he's there, and it's a point where, because you're it's like there was a whole point where you just kind of want to watch another villain like the Daleks, just to not have to watch another Master episode. Well, not to say that it's bad, but it just felt a bit, yeah. And I think this was upsetting for me, because there's one particular episode which I found the Master Fatigue will kick into effect, and it just got really bad, and that was in the Sea Devils. Now, I know lots of people like the Sea Devils, but the issue with the Sea Devils I found was although the Sea Devils themselves are amazing, the costume is amazing. I think they're probably one of the best costumes of the 70s, but to be fair, I think a lot of Jon Pertwee's stuff, Jon Pertwee's villains' costumes were alright. But it was the Master that just annoyed me in this story. Roger Delgado plays the Master really well. I think he's probably in my top 3, along with Anthony Ainley and Michelle Gomez. But I just can't get past the fact that you've watched season 8, and season 8 was at times a bit annoying. Like, he was fine in Terror of the Autons. I don't like Mind of Evil, however, he was fine in that one. In Claws of Axos, it's a bit annoying, and then you do get a bit of a break in Colony of Space, but he does come back eventually. And then the Daemons, it's just a bit annoying, but they kind of given up with the Master by the Daemons, and you can tell, because he kind of gets just put to the sidelines. But he just seems to be in there, and then he takes control of the Sea Devils. And in my opinion, the best part of the Sea Devils, hands down, is when they just, go, I'm not listening to you anymore, to the Master, and they just kind of let him go, because it's just really good, because I find it so infuriating. It's just getting there, and I just like that he's gone from it. So that just annoys me a tiny bit. But the one thing which annoyed me about this story is, I think the Master works well as a villain. He's a bit like the Daleks, in the sense where the Daleks are always going to be a good villain. If you're going to have the Daleks in an episode, might not be a good episode. Like, there's some dodgy Master stories, and there's a couple of dodgy Dalek stories and dodgy Sandman stories. But you know that it's always going to be alright. I don't think there's any Dalek stories or Master stories or Sandman stories where you just straight out you can't watch it. It's so bad that you can't watch it. So yeah, but what I don't like about the Master is he takes good concept villains or pre-established villains, and just puts them to the sidelines. So in this story, he just puts the Sea Devils to the sidelines like they don't matter. And then already established ones, he's done it recently in The Time of Children, where he just, the Cybermen, this powerful thing, that he just pushes it to the sidelines. And in, Terror of the Autons, already pre-established villains, who seem to be a decent threat for the Doctor and Spearhead from space. He just makes them look like they're nothing, and they don't really need to be there, but they are, and it's it's annoying. I think there's one instance where I think they did it right, and this is still in the same thing, which is Frontier in Space because by that point you're kind of getting annoyed at the Master for a bit. You're not getting annoyed at him, but you kind of got a break, sorry. You're getting a bit of a break. Time Monster came out, and you've had this is your third episode, and he doesn't appear until, I think, episode 4. I think it's just as Jon Pertwee's gone to prison. In that episode, the third Doctor's gone to prison. That's when he appears. And I don't know. I think the only reason that he works in this one, is not because he's done anything different to make him better. I think he plays everything. He plays the Master well, and I think he plays the Master how he should be played. But it's just the fact he keeps coming in and the way he's been written. I mean, you can have a good actor, but the script's not there. Doesn't matter how good an actor is. It's just not going to work. But with Frontier in Space, the reason it works is because at the end of the episode, he's got the Ogrons the whole time, and he's leading over the Ogrons, which is fine because that's what the Ogrons were there in Day of the Daleks to do. They were supposed to be they were supposed to listen to their superiors. But then at the end of the episode, when the Daleks appear, and you're like, oh wow, the Daleks have appeared, the Daleks don't get downplayed because the Master's there. The Master is genuinely fearful of the Daleks and escapes. He's scared because he's failed, and that's great writing. I mean, obviously it's a tad naff, but it's good writing in my opinion. Just because sometimes the Master can downplay it. I mean, he's downplayed the Cybermen, and that's just annoying. So yeah, it's just a bit annoying. And now I know some people will probably say, well, Chris, you just said Michelle Gomez was one of your favourite Masters, yet she appears a lot in Capaldi's era, and she does. Michelle Gomez's Master appears a lot in the Capaldi era. It's similar to how Roger Delgado appears quite a lot in the Pertwee era. However, the difference is that, first of all, in Series 8, Michelle Gomez barely does anything. She just sits there in most of the episodes, and at the end she does her stuff, which is a good episode. Series 9, she's good in the Dalek episode, and she kind of doesn't really appear that much. And then in Series 10, I think she works in that story because they give her a redemption arc, and it's different. Because, I mean, in the Master stories, he might escape in most of them. I mean, I suppose in the Daemons he doesn't exactly escape, he gets caught and sent to prison. And in the Sea Devils he escaped, but he always seems to fail. And I mean, I think even by Mark of the Rani, by Mark of the Rani, I think they noticed this, and that's why they try to change it up by adding in the Rani to help, because they've noticed that the Master's not going to become an appealing villain if he just appears and loses to the Doctor every time, because there's never going to be a sense of scale or weight to the Master's plan. It's like the Master's got the whole world's hostage. The Master got a super weapon to destroy it. It's alright, the Doctor's going to save the day. They wouldn't write it, so he's going to lose, which doesn't work, which why Missy's arc kind of works a bit better. Now, I know I've been complaining about the Master fatigue, and I do admit it gets the Master. I think after Jon Pertwee's era, Tom Baker's, Pete Davidson's, Colin Baker's, and Sylvester McCoy's, all of that areas handle the scripts for the Master a lot better, and the Daleks and the Sandmen. I think the Daleks also have a bit of that of an issue in Hartnell's era, and the Sandmen also kind of have it in the Troughton era. And I think after Pertwee's era, it's kind of handled better because, like in Tom Baker's era, he's got 7 seasons, so you'd think there's a lot they might have. If say season 8 was a Tom Baker season, it might not have been as bad because he has so many seasons. It's not as much. But it works well in Tom Baker's seasons because he only has like 2 Master stories. He has 1 Sideman story and has 2 Dalek stories. And the rest of them aren't always new. I think there's a couple of Sontaran stories as well. But most of them are new villains, which is why it works. Whether the Jon Pertwee era, out of 24 stories, 8 of them have Roger Delgado's Master in. Which means that if you remove the fact that 4 of them are from Series 7... and he doesn't appear in Series 7 because he hasn't been made yet, and he doesn't appear in Series 11 because unfortunately Roger Delgado passed away. That means that's 9 episodes removed, which means that out of 15 episodes, he appears in 8 episodes, which means from Series 8 to Series 10, he literally doesn't appear in what? Is it 7 episodes? He appears in more episodes than he doesn't appear in through Series 8 to Series 10, I think. If that's correct. But yeah, that's just one of the things that I've always not liked about the Jon Pertwee era. Now, obviously, that's just my opinion. I'm sure some people think the fact that Roger Delgado was in more episodes was good because unfortunately he did pass away. He wouldn't have got as much stuff. Because if he was only in 2 of Series 8, 1 of Series 9 and 2 of Series 10, or 1 of Series 10, 2 of Series 9 and 3 of Series 8 or something like that, then he wouldn't have got as much stories and then he wouldn't have got as much screen time and he wouldn't have been as beloved as he is. That's true. But I think in some cases it does hurt stories. Because a lot of people complain of the Daleks in the new series being in every season, and that hurts the Daleks because they're in every season, and some of the stories aren't as good, and it's hurting the scale of the Daleks. And I think that's what's wrong with the Master in this thing. He feels like because John Simm's Master. I think unfortunately John Simm's Master is the unfortunate Master where he barely got any episodes. He's literally in 3 stories. But what makes that good is that it means that I want more of John Simm's Master. I just wish he'd had another story in between End of Time and the last of the Time Lords and Sound Drum's Last of the Time Lords. In between that would have been a great. But that's what I want from Delgado. I think although that makes him a good master, I just want more of John Simm's Master, which is something that you don't have with Roger Delgado. I always want less Roger Delgado because in just some of the stories, he feels like although I love Day of the Daleks is a good example of another story. Because Day of the Daleks, when it was made, fun fact for you, when it was made, they were going to put a Dalek story at the end of Season 9, but then because they thought they could get more viewers or something, they moved it to the first episode. So Louis Marks, I think his name is, he had to put the Day of the Daleks into the story. So the story wasn't built for the Daleks just kind of came in, which is why sometimes they feel like a bit of an afterthought. Which is what I feel like some of the stories towards the end of Season 8 do. I think in the Daemons, he feels a bit like an afterthought. I think if the Master's role was somebody else, it wouldn't have changed it at all. And the Colony in Space, it feels like the Colony in Space is 2 stories. It feels like you've got one story which is the Doomsday Weapon, which I think is the name of the novelisation, and it's also the name of the weapon. And then you've got another story which is the Colony in Space. I think the Doomsday Weapon is about the Doctor and the Master and Joe the Joe and the Doctor trying to stop him from getting the weapon, and the Master trying to get the weapon, and then the colony in space is the colonists versus the mining corporation, and again, the Master pretends to be one of the official people to fight against the dispute. He could have been another guy, and it wouldn't have changed. And if you'd removed the whole Doomsday weapon part, and it was another guy, it wouldn't have changed the story whatsoever. I mean, obviously you've taken that bit out, but like the Master hadn't got anything to do with the mining corporation and the colonists, except from the fact he was the official. If he wasn't if they changed him from not being the official, then he wouldn't affect the colony in space storyline. But yeah, that's just my thing with this story. I'm sure that other people disagree. I'm sure other people think, oh well, Peter Davison also had like 20 million Anthony Ainley stories, or Michelle Gomez is in like all of Capaldi's stories and she ruins it, which is fine. I understand, but I don't know. I just kind of get annoyed when I want to sit down and watch a Pertwee story with a good villain. If I want to watch a Pertwee story with a villain that's not appeared since, it limits my options quite severely, and I want to watch like a 4-parter. That means that I've pretty much got none of Series 10, Series 7, because if I want to watch a 4-part with not the Master in it, that removes most of Series 7, quite a lot of Series 10, a couple of Series 10, and like a couple of Series 9, because there's a lot of 6-parters in this story, this season, and most of the 4-parters are normally the Master stories. But yeah, so yeah, if you have enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and yeah, hope you have a good one. Bye.